Sorry, I'm almost half an hour in at this point. On my end, I know hopefully you're less time, but I'm starting to feel like I'm being pranked by Stockfish. Every one of these. Welcome back. Since I finally finished analyzing my backlog of rapid games over on Lichess, I played a whole new rapid game on Lichess last night, and today I'm going to try to analyze it. Again, this is for me to get better at chess. Hopefully you'll get something out of it too, especially if you're learning just like I am. I've pulled up the game here, and right after the game, I did run the game review, so I saw the graph, and that's why there's a title, or maybe in the thumbnail, says some blunders are worse than others. Both my opponent and I had plenty of mistakes and blunders in this game, but their very last move was much worse than all the blunders that either one of us had made in the game previous to that. And I can see on the graph that it swung from them having their biggest lead of the game to me having my biggest lead of the game in one move. But both of us had plenty of other mistakes and blunders to look at in this game, and I'm going to try to get through it without wasting too much of your time. I do know from the move list that's presented right here, I don't know how to get a move list on Lichess that doesn't have all the blunders and mistakes listed right there, so I would like to go through seeing the move list and the eval bar, but not having the markings showing which moves were blunders, mistakes, inaccuracies. But I can see right here that my opponent's first 6 moves, 4 of those moves were either inaccurate or blunders. But I do know that it opened normally. This position in the Sicilian defense has been reached probably millions of times by regular players, and at least thousands of times, if not tens of thousands of times, in titled games. I'm pretty sure there are lots of possible responses by White here, but I have not yet studied White playing against the Sicilian defense. I just know that I would like to play d4. I could probably play d4 now if I check. Yeah, d4 now is one of the options. But I like to play c3 first and then d4 to give an extra degree here. I know that once this pawn gets out of the way, both my knight and my queen are defending that square. The problem with that for me is that if they take and I take back, whether or not they take back with the knight and we trade knights and I end up with my queen in the middle, they've already traded one of their flank pawns for one of my center pawns. So that's why I play c3 here, because that way if we end up trading, I'll have 2 center pawns and we'll both be missing a flank pawn. But here my opponent played g6, which was listed by the game review as inaccurate, and now I am supposed to play d4, so I did. That was my plan, obviously, from playing c3 at the beginning. And they're not supposed to take, according to this game review. It's listed as their second best move, but their best move is supposed to be d5. But they did take, which was listed as inaccurate. I'm surprised by that, because that's what always happens in that position. The few dozen times I've reached it recently. Of course, I only have one good move, and that's to take back. And here, since they have already moved this g-pawn, they're supposed to fee and kettle their bishop, or they can play d6 and it's okay. And I'm not sure why, but it says they can play knight to a5. That's their third best move. But my opponent played here. At the time, I didn't know that was a blunder, obviously. How nice that would be if you had an eval bar flapping around during the game. Obviously, it would only be fair if both of you had the eval bar flapping around during the game. But I wonder how interesting that would be to play. Not to have the Stockfish lines running. That would obviously be cheating, but I would be interested in a game where both players could see the eval bar. So they wouldn't know what move was best or what response was best, but they would at least know, oh, my opponent made a mistake. The eval bar just jumped. I have something here. I don't know what I have here. And I also don't know what they were going for. This pawn is defended. I guess if they take and I take back, what are they going to do? Maybe they were thinking of playing e5 here to add a third attacker to that pawn. They're not attacking this pawn, right? Yeah, I'm not sure what my opponent was thinking, but maybe they play this a lot. Maybe very often their opponent brings this bishop out here thinking they need to defend the d-pawn, and then, whoops, that leaves this pawn undefended. But I just remembered something from while I was playing the game. I remembered, I think it was Gotham Chess, but it might have been one of the other people that I watch here on YouTube, saying that, if there's a knight here or here, and then there's a pawn in one of those spots that can just move up and attack it, a lot of times that's best. I don't remember how much time I spent on this, but it looks like I spent about 20 seconds thinking about that according to the clock, maybe 22 seconds. It looked like if I did that, now they don't have this target, if that is indeed what they were aiming at, and now their knight needs to move. Well, what they did instead was check me. And I assume that's an inaccuracy because it's so easily thwarted, but I think what their idea was, and I'm just guessing, just like I did during the game, I'm guessing that they thought once I blocked the check some way or another that they would pick up that pawn. Maybe they thought I would block with the bishop, and if I did that, they would have 2 pawns hanging, and one of them would come with check, because I don't have anything defending this e-pawn. And I did see that during the game. I also knew that as soon as I'm out of check, they're still going to have to move this knight. So I still have a tempo of sorts. Well, since it looks like they're aiming at this pawn, and blocking with my bishop won't protect either one of those pawns, and in fact would undefend my b pawn, I thought, well, what if I blocked with the knight in one of these two squares? That would defend that pawn and block check. And then their queen would be there for nothing. I don't know why there's such a huge difference. It says knight to c3 is by far my best move, and I don't know why. My second best move is to bring my f knight, the knight I've already moved, which opening principles, one of the ones that I have learned over the last year is to not move the same piece twice if you don't have to. To me, it looks like I get to develop another piece while blocking that check and protecting my e-pawn. But I don't know why there's such a huge difference between those two squares. Oh yes, maybe I do. Maybe because going to where I went, which is here, and was counted as a blunder, blocks my bishop's development. Maybe that's why. But I wasn't going to move my bishop while the queen was sitting here. Why would it have been so much better to go here? I would have been at +6, and they would have had to put their knight back on the home square, it says, but I don't know why they couldn't have just moved it there. Now, they can't put it here, because I left this knight on f3, even though the computer said my second best move was to block that check with that f knight. But I left the f knight there because that's one of the squares their knight can go to. In fact, both of those are squares that their knight can go to. But yeah, I don't know why this is so much better than what I played, and why that's a blunder. Maybe, oh, okay. I think I get it. My opponent did play knight to d4. Stockfish says knight to d4 is their best move because my queen's not guarding that spot anymore. That's why I should have put the knight on c3. But wait, their queen would also still be guarding that square, so it's not like I could take the knight this way. Okay, I think I get it. This adds a square for their knight. Now their knight can go back, or I guess over here, or in here, whereas if I had blocked on c3, their knight couldn't go in here because of my queen. Okay, I think I figured that out. But I'm still ahead, just not as ahead as I was on the previous turn. Okay, they played their best move. And yes, the move list is already pulled up. I've already looked at it, and I'm supposed to just go ahead and get this light squared bishop out, I assume in preparation for castling. I just didn't like that knight being there, so I took it, but that's not listed here. A3 is listed, H3 is listed. What in the, why H3? I don't understand. I do understand if they had already put their light squared bishop here. Okay, H3 makes more sense in that case. But I don't understand H3 now. They don't have, I mean, I guess they could get there in 2 moves. But yeah, this was my best move. I just went ahead and took the knight. I figured this knight can go over there and take that spot here in a little bit. I'll be able to get this bishop out. And of course, they are supposed to take it. They did. And we managed to play a few more moves without any blunders or inaccuracies, with me staying mildly ahead, but not very far. I developed that bishop to here in preparation for castling, and then of course I thought I would move this knight over there eventually. They finally fianchettoed that bishop, but I'm not sure what it's aiming at. I guess it's just exerting control over center squares. And I am supposed to play queen to b3, or queen to c2. I have no idea why. Or rook to b1 is my third best move. Are they seriously trying to, is that what Stockfish is worried about? Because they're not going to lead that attack with their queen, I'm pretty sure. But that's all that I can see that all 3 of those moves do, is protect this b-pawn. I cannot fathom why I need to protect the b-pawn right now, because it's protected. They're not going to lead that attack with their queen, I'm pretty sure. Is it worried that they're going to move their queen over here and then attack with the bishop first? I don't understand that. The whole reason I did all the things I did over here was so I could castle, and I did, and that turned out to get rid of most of my advantage. We're now down between -1 and +1. My opponent played their best move. It looks like they're coming after this pawn. They now have 2 attackers on it. I have multiple ways of adding a defender to that, because right now I've only got 1 defender on it. I can put this bishop on f3, which, oh, Stockfish says that's my best move. I wasn't sure about that, because then it would block this pawn. Not that I can move that pawn right now, nor would I want to if I was legally allowed. But I could defend it this way, and I could defend, maybe that's why I was supposed to put the queen over there earlier? No, because it was also suggesting the queen to b3 and the rook to b1, and neither one of those would have guarded that pawn. But now it's my second best move, and I did find that because I did see that they were adding a pressure to that pawn. And now that my queen's here, I can add another defender to the pawn if I need to. Now, they're supposed to castle, but instead they decided to chip away at my pawns. I'm not sure why that's inaccurate. Stockfish says that's inaccurate because I can play b3. Well, you might be able to tell from the confused look on my face, I didn't play b3, and I I just cut out a long section here of where I stared at it and trying to figure out what good that would do. It looks like it gives up the rook, but I guess not. They wouldn't take the rook, I think. Because if they did, no, they might. Wait, why wouldn't they take the rook? At first I thought, oh, I could move my bishop here and bam, that their queen would be under attack and my bishop would be protected by the queen. But no, then they could just take this pawn. Why would I play b3? And it says that they, if I did, they would take this pawn. Oh my, this might be one of those situations, and you've probably run into it too, if you ever go through a game with Stockfish like I usually do. There are times when Stockfish suggests a line as by far your best line, and either one of two scenarios happens if you follow that line out. One, which I've run into several times, is that if you keep following out best move, best move, best move after this supposed best move, that eval starts to shrink, and it's not 2 + 5. Now it's 2.0. And if we keep playing each player's best move all the way down, it'll get back to 0. That's happened several times when I've followed a line out for a long ways. The other scenario, which I think happens more than half the time, is that you do eventually realize what the advantage was. If both players play their best move for the next 6 or 7 moves, you'll see that, oh, I'm going to end up a pawn ahead and have a slightly better position. And the computer was able to see that from here, but I'm not. And I still can't see why it's not their best move to take this, or why it's their best. That looks like it gives up a knight. Okay. Well, let's say they played here. That would be really bad, and I wouldn't play here. That's my second best move. The only way I could get the huge advantage from this is to move my bishop to a3, which, yes, threatens their queen and prevents them temporarily from castling, but it lets their queen go back to right to where it was, and I'm just down a rook, but I'm up +4. So let's say they play their best move, which is to put their queen back where it was. I'm just down a rook. That's all that happened there, but I'm up +4. If I play bishop to c5, okay, let's play bishop to c5. Is their queen trapped? Is that the thing? It says their best move is to take my knight. Their second best move is to take the bishop, which I assume I would take back with my queen. Yes, those are their two best moves, and either way, I would take back with my queen. Why wouldn't they just go there? That looks like a safe square. That's their third best move, because now I can play knight to c4. Okay, well, let's say that I thought of that, and I probably would here if they had gone, if I had made it to this point. I would have thought I was losing because I'm down a rook, and also if I put my knight there, obviously they can escape. So let's say I put my knight here. Their best move is to go there, which I would have guessed. Oh, no, it's changed. Now their best move is to go all the way back. I would expect my opponent to go to c7 in this situation. It says their second best move is to play b6, and I would take their queen. Well, let's assume that my opponent is a human. They would not play b6 here. They would play this. And then I would have to find what? I would have to find knight to d6 check. I suppose because now my bishop's in danger. But here, this protects the bishop, and the bishop's protecting the knight, and they're in check and have to move their king. Okay, so let's say I found that, decided to quit chasing the queen for a second, force their king to move. It has a couple of choices. Oh, their best move is to take the knight. I do not know why. That the last 3 turns, Stockfish thinks their best move is to take something small with their queen and give it up. Let's say they played, okay, it's changed its mind again. F8 or D8 is best now. Looks about even. Let's say they went that way. Now that's my best move. D captures E6. Okay, well, let's say I found that. I'm still down 4 points of material because I lost a whole rook. And this is all hypothetical because none of this happened. And they're going to take back with the D pawn or the F pawn. Let's say that they've realized they might not get to castle, so they want to leave that pawn there, so they take back with the D pawn. Oh, now I have a discovered check. And believe it or not, it's actually best to discover check there. I would discover check here. And the reason I would do that is so that I could then win their queen when they got out of check. Okay, that's my second best move. Okay, so this is one of those times where if they took my rook, I would have to play pretty perfectly for the next several moves to realize my advantage here. That's a pretty long string of things that didn't happen. Okay, but that's what I should have played was b3. And I would have had to know that it's okay to lose my rook, because down here somewhere I'm going to get their queen for a knight, and then I'm going to be up 1 point of material or something. What's my second best move? Rook to d1? Okay, I get that. That opens up a discovery on their queen, I guess. Or, I mean, it prepares that. They would probably, it says they wouldn't. They would castle if I did that. If I played rook to d1, my opponent would castle, and then I would not move the knight at that point. Well, it looked to me like they were just going to take this pawn. And if I took back, they would go up a pawn. So I took the pawn first. That got rid of all my advantage. Now here Stockfish says my best move is knight to f3. Now I promise you I did consider that because it attacks the queen. It puts the knight back on a more natural square. The problem with that is that my knight is here to defend that pawn. If I play knight to f3, I'm going to expect them to take this pawn, and Stockfish says that they would. But then when they did that, I would check, and they would block with their bishop. Oh, and then when I took their bishop, they would take back, and then I would just be down a pawn. What? Well, I played the move I should have played earlier, but I didn't want to because it blocks the f pawn. I went ahead and did that. I guess I was thinking of coming this way to attack the queen, and here they castled, and we're just about even. They played I played one of my better moves, which is the move I had apparently intended to play. My opponent played one of their better moves, which is where I thought they would have gone in that hypothetical scenario a few moves ago. I played one of my better moves. I finally developed the bishop, and I'm not worried about this pawn now because my queen is guarding it. Now my rooks are connected. I have completed my development. They played one of their better moves, doing the same thing I just did, getting the bishop off the back rank, connecting their rooks, and then I'm supposed to play bishop to d4. Okay, I see that. It would have been protected by the knight, threatened their queen, but then their queen... Stockfish says their queen would have come in here. And then I would have offered a queen trade by dropping back to c1. And they would have taken it. And I would have taken back. And I would have been very slightly ahead. Okay, well, I didn't play that. I remember how I didn't want to put this in front of the f pawn. I thought, what do I do? If I move it now, that they're going to get that pawn. Their knight and their queen are pointed at that pawn. So how can I keep my bishop defending this, but not blocking this pawn? Well, that's obvious to move it back. So I had to get the g-pawn out of the way. That's why I did that, but that wasn't great. We're now at exactly even. Nope, below even. But that was the idea here, was to keep the bishop on this diagonal while also not blocking the f-pawn. They played one of their better moves. I played my best move, which, oh, that was another reason for playing g3, was so that that bishop could attack their queen. Their best move is to take this pawn. Okay, I get that. They would be threatening my queen. I would take theirs, and they would take mine. Oh, but then their bishop would be off this diagonal, so it says I would go take that pawn down there, b7, and then they would save their rook by taking it to an open file, and then I would just nonchalantly put my knight on a5 for no reason, because that bishop's not there anymore, so I'm not attacking it. That bishop's down here now. Why would I put my knight on a5? That's... okay, no. I'm not following that out, because that doesn't make any sense, but I do understand why they should take this pawn. But they didn't. They played their second best move, which was to get their queen out of danger. I'm supposed to play a4 now. Okay, I understand that. Nope, knight to d4, I understand that too, because their queen's out in the middle, and I have a bunch of pieces. I can control a lot of squares with those pieces, continue to force their queen to slide around and gain tempos while advancing. I get that. I'm taking space and chasing their queen at the same time, so both of those moves make sense. Well, I played that. That was inaccurate, but I'd had the same idea. The problem, I guess, is that it's a backward move and allows this again. But this time, they're not supposed to play it. They did play one of their better moves, but now they're slightly ahead. I'm supposed to play knight to d2 now. Or bishop to f, put the bishop back on f3. Oh, because they have two attackers on that. Okay, I understand bishop to f3. I do not understand the knight to d2, but instead I did that. That's a mistake. And it's a mistake because of knight to d5. Now that where can this bishop go? I'm about to lose this bishop, and when I do, they're going to get that pawn. It says my best move is just to go here, so when they take that bishop, I'll take their bishop. And then they would leave their knight sitting there hanging and move their rook over here. They wouldn't take back with their b-pawn. They would leave my bishop there and leave their knight on f4 and just move their rook over. Sorry, I'm almost half an hour in at this point. On my end, I know hopefully you're less time, but I'm starting to feel like I'm being pranked by Stockfish. Every one of these, there's been a couple of times where it's said my best move was something, and it's obvious, but the rest of these times, yeah, that's what I did instead. I understand why that's not great. I'm going to lose stuff here, and they did take my bishop, and I took back with my pawn, which was my best move. My opponent is up -6 now, temporarily saving that pawn, obviously, and continuing to block their bishop. They're supposed to move it over here to aim at this pawn, which I would then protect by putting my queen on c... Nope, it says I wouldn't do that anymore. That's what it said first. Now it says I would just play queen to c3, which doesn't protect that at all. What? Hopefully already, one of you who's watching who's higher rated than me, or maybe lower rated than me, but understands some of these things that I said I just don't understand. Hopefully already one of you's left a comment in under this video, which explained some of that to me, because I count on that, and I am greatly helped by those of you who do that. I really, really, truly appreciate it. And I'm not just saying that to get more engagement for the channel, and you know I don't care about engagement for the channel. I'm just trying to get better at chess. Sorry, I do care. I do care about engagement for the channel to some extent, but wow. Well, that little speech was about as coherent as what Stockfish is saying up there, but what I greatly, much more care about is you helping me get better at chess, if you know the answer. I'm just going to go through the rest of this game. That was a mistake on their part. That was an inaccuracy on my part. That wasn't great on their part, because now they were up -6, now they're only up -4. That was a mistake. That was a blunder. Took us almost back to even. Nope, still -2, almost -3. That was a mistake. I don't know why. Is it because they're about to trap my queen? It is because they're about to trap my queen. But I can block that. But instead I blocked it this way, which is a mistake. And now I'm down -8. Again, they're supposed to play over here or B4. No, that's not. This is B4. Well, I get that. I can't defend that pawn anymore. And this would also add an attacker to this knight. But instead they did that, which is a blunder. But they're still ahead. I'm supposed to take their rook down on C8 now. So I did it. Do you know that before I started recording this video, I tried 4 other times? And I couldn't even say the introduction correctly? Welcome back. Now that I finished the backlog of blah, 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 I kept messing that part up. At least 4 times. Check my recycle bin. Those videos are in there. No, don't come to my computer and check my recycle bin. That would be weird, and I would ask you why you were in my home. Anyway, they're supposed to take back. So 2 of us made the best move in a row. Wow. Okay. That's unusual for this game. And now I'm not supposed to do that. Well, I thought I should. Nothing's guarding this pawn and nothing's guarding that pawn. Why isn't that a good move? Why is B3 not a good move? It protects both of the pawns. Stockfish here says my best move is queen to C1 or queen to A1 or queen to C2. Those are my 3 best moves. But not doing that, but having the same idea is that's a mistake. The idea was to get out of the possible attack by this rook. But for some reason, that one's bad, whereas all of those would have been great. Not great. My opponent still would have had an advantage, but not that big of one. They're supposed to play queen to D4. What does that do? That's D4, right? I don't know what that does. But they did that. That's bad. I don't know why. And then I did, oh, that was fine? Oh, good. Again, they're supposed to go after this pawn here. They haven't figured that out yet. My opponent's having a hard time figuring out that fianchettoed bishops can continue to move diagonally if they want to. So that was one of their weak spots in this game. We've noticed that dozens of times. They just kept not realizing that the bishop can go there. It actually legally and physically can move to H6. They never guessed it. Honestly, in the game, I don't think I was worried about that either. I kept thinking they were going to try this, and then I was going to en passant, and they were going to get the pawn anyway. And I didn't know I was way behind this whole section. Because again, no eval bar during the game, as much as I would like it. Okay, but they are supposed to play bishop to H6 now, or just take that knight, but instead they did half of what I thought they were going to do. I thought they were going to try to throw it past, but they went there to challenge that pawn. I am supposed to take it, which is weird, because if they had gone the whole way, I was going to en passant it. But maybe I was only going to use en passant to show that I knew how, and then here I wasn't sure. So I played a move. Oh, and we're almost back to even here. My opponent's advantage is very slight if I'll just take that pawn. But instead I did that. Why did I do that? Nobody knows. So they took that, and I took back. And now that pawn's hanging. They're supposed to take it, but they did that. I mean, I know why they did that, because I guess they thought they had mate on the next turn. But they don't have mate on the next turn. They could have just taken this free pawn, because it's free. And then they would have a bishop pointed here. And after all that time of their bishop being trapped and unable to notice that H6 was open, they would finally be free to roam. And from here, they would be guarding H2 and patrolling quite a bit of the board from E5. But they thought they had mate. It's so simple to stop mate. Just bring the bishop back here and it guards that spot. So I did that. It also stops mate, but now they can just take the pawn, and they're already, we're even on material right now, but they can take that. And now they're up a pawn. So I'm supposed to play queen to, really? Queen to E4? Well, if I'm that far behind, why would I want to trade off my queens? Or queen to C1? What does that do? I don't know. I did that, which threatens the queen, and they're supposed to check me on either G4 or E3. They chose one of them, and I have to move my king Fortunately, that was the best place to move it, and that's where I picked. And then now they took the pawn. Well, now they maybe they're starting to see this. The queen can't point there just yet, but I'm supposed to play queen to e1 now. Oh, and it says they would take it. Really? I wouldn't have thought they would have taken it. I thought they would have come over here aiming for mate. I did that. I thought that was a good idea. Right? It says they should play queen to e2, and they would have mate in 7. Oh no, you can't see what their next move is because it's hidden behind my camera here, but I don't know what I thought that they were going to do, but I'm pretty sure I expected them to go here, which would protect the bishop because I'm also aiming at the bishop, or here, which they would have thought would have been aiming at mate, and then they would have lost their bishop. So, I mean, I don't see what's wrong with that. I don't see what's wrong with that. Those would have been fine. They would have continued to protect the bishop. And in fact, it says h3 is their second best move. What? That would give up the bishop. And it says I wouldn't take it. Sorry, I'm going to follow that line out. That's not what they played. But let's say they played h3. It says my best move is here, but not to take the bishop. How bad? Why wouldn't I take the bishop? Because of this. And there's nothing I can do about it. Wait, why can't I go here? How bad would that be? Would that be really bad? Oh, because that's also mate. It's not just here. Okay. Well, let's back up. They didn't see that they would have been able to bring the rook down here after I took the bishop and have a mating sequence. What they saw was that I was attacking these two. They needed to save one while still defending the other one. And instead of going to one of the two squares that they could have easily gone to, they did that. And just to back up here, they have a mate in 7 if they play queen to e2. But now I have a mate in 10. And I'm pretty proud of myself that I didn't take very long on this next move, just 3 seconds. And then my opponent resigned. So yeah, definitely some blunders are worse than others. And some blunders are much more easy to understand than others. This one is an elementary level blunder. They put their queen in the path of one of my pieces on a square where it was not protected by anything. But I'm a little disappointed in the analysis provided here because I don't feel like I learned anything much. One last plea to you, if you know why some of those mistakes, blunders, and or inaccuracies were those or were counted as such, please help me out. Thank you for spending your time here. I'll see you next time.